In the United States, there are not a ton of buried saints that we can make pilgrimage to. But today's saint, Saint Junipero Serra, buried in California, Carmel, California, is one of my favorites. On the West Coast, if you've ever been to California, most of the major cities along the West Coast are founded by him. His missions, his bringing of the church there in the 1700s, long before the United States, the church was here. One of the main highways that shoots up the center of California is Saint Junipero Serra Highway. If you go to the U.S. Capitol, there are Catholic priests for Hawaii and California who are their patron saints, so to speak. The state of California chose Saint Junipero Serra. I was out in California on my 30-day silent retreat. I know it's hard to believe I could be quiet that long, but it was a really good retreat. And while I was there, I would make pilgrimage to the mission sites, the various missions that the Carmelites founded when they were out there. And most of them were Saint Junipero Serra. He was from Spain, super smart guy, went to Mexico and felt called to bring the gospel north. The Spanish Empire had already advanced north, but now the church had to follow the faith to sort of not only evangelize the Americans that were here, the Native Americans that were here, and to bring them the fullness of the gospel. Everyone has a right to that. Saint Junipero Serra was all about advancing the truth of the Lord. And he faced a lot of obstacles, not only those who stood in his way in the Spanish Empire, who were a little opposed to the dignity he brought to all he brought the gospel to, but also just a lot of challenges he faced in the 1700s. Early on in his hike north, he traveled something like, 24,000 miles on foot, on donkey or horse. He was bit by some bug in his leg that never healed. And oftentimes he was challenged by the friars that went with him to go back, to go home. But he said, always forward, never back. Always forward, never back. And time and again, facing physical difficulty, the hostilities of those around him, hostilities from the Spanish government, hostilities from maybe those who resisted the advance of Christianity, the truth of the gospel. He just kind of knew in his heart that people deserved to know Christ. And forward he went, always forward, never back. When I visited his tomb, I asked him to kind of put that on my own heart. His feast day is July 1st, a wonderful patron for the month of July. You and I, we face challenges in our life. We want to throw in the towel. We want to go back to where we were. We face the own resistance of our own heart to grow in holiness. But to hear the words of Saint Junipero Serra, always forward, never back. Leave the past to God. Trust in his providence to hold all things. The great Father Dan Schuster, one of the great diocesan priests of our diocese, he said to me, Father Mark, that could be the mantra of the Holy Spirit. Always forward, never back. If you walk away with anything from Saint Junipero Serra today, maybe enshrine that on your heart like I've enshrined it on mine. The great words, the great motto of Saint Junipero Serra, who when he passed away, the Native Americans who he evangelized came out by the thousands to mourn his loss. Always forward, never back. What joy that brings, huh? Great optimism. Optimism that is not based on fantasy, but on truth. The truth of God, who works all things for the good, for those who love him. God bless you. Speaking to the truth that the sovereignty of God is sovereign over all things, that everything that happens in our life, for the good or the bad, good or evil, that nothing escapes the sovereignty of God to work all things for the good for those who love him. He's able to hold it all and work it all masterfully towards his ultimate plan of salvation for those who choose to accept it.